Ooh-wee. Okay, welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I am Nate, and if you watch my show, you're in my corner. Today's episode is a post-fight show for UFC Fight Night. Tarec Saffiedine versus my good buddy Rory MacDonald. Okay, and then also a pre-fight show for UFC 179. Jose Aldo versus Chad Money Mendes for the UFC Featherweight Championship of the World. So let's get started with the post-fight show of the main card of UFC Fight Night. Okay, so let's start with the main event. Actually, you know what? Let's save the main event for later. Save the good stuff for later. Leave your viewers hanging a little bit. Okay, so the first fight on the main card was Mitch Gagnon versus Roman Salazar. Now this fight got a lot of flack because Roman Salazar, I believe, was a cable guy who got a shot at the big times in the UFC. He was a quick substitute for the match, substitute opponent. And Mitch Gagnon, he's a veteran in the sport and a veteran in the UFC. He's been on a tear. He is a guy to watch out for in bantamweight division in the UFC. And yeah, he wins by submission, rear naked choke, round one, Mitch Gagnon. It was a great, explosive, exciting, quick fight. Exactly how I like it. Not the biggest fan of decisions, as you all know. And yeah, I think it's a good test for Roman Salazar, see where he's at. But obviously he's not there in the top 10, 15 ranked guys yet. And you know, he'll live to see another day. Can't blame the guy for trying. And Mitch Gagnon, well, he is fighting Henan Brow next, so that's going to be a great matchup to watch out for. And so, yeah, good job, Mitch Gagnon. That was the first fight on the main card of this event, and it was in the bantamweight division. So, Mitch wins by submission, rear naked choke, round one. Then the next fight on the main card, we have Nordin Taleb versus Ling Ji Liang. And this was a great back and forth brawl. It was just all over the place. You didn't know what the judges were thinking. Ling landed some good clean shots in the later half of the fight. Nordin looked good the first half of the fight. And it was just, wow, it was tough to say, but I do think the judges got it right. And Nordin Taleb, he won by split decision on this. It was, yeah, 29-28 across the board, and then 30-27. Yeah, it was a great fight. Nordin, he trains at TriStar, and he's a guy that we'll see more of in the UFC for sure. Aside from this win, he'll go on to bigger and better things, and that's going to be the real test for him. We all know him from Ultimate Fighter Nations. That was a pretty good season, which was Canada versus Australia, and so good job, Nordin. Then also on the main card, we had Elias Theodorou versus Bruno Santos in the middleweight division. And Elias Theodorou, he is a star in the making, I think. I think this guy can easily crack that top 15, maybe bottom tier of the top 10 the way he is right now. If he works out his game a little bit more, we'll see. It's like him and Chad Laprise, who I'll get to later, are considered two top prospects in the UFC right now. And yeah, Elias Theodorou, I think, he has it easy on one hand in the sense that middleweight division still kind of lacking overall talent. Overall, I mean, excluding, say, the top 10, but everything outside the top 10 is pretty much cakewalk. And so Elias Theodorou should be able to get past that with what he has now. Then anything in the top 10, your Luke Rockholds, Michael Bispings, and Vitor Belforts and Lyoto Machida, that's going to be the true test for Elias. But he's not quite there yet. He needs to win a couple more fights to really be considered against those guys. But yeah, he won by unanimous decision against Bruno Santos. Just dominated him, mixed things up real well. He went for takedowns, he got him, he landed some good clean strikes, he looked good in the clinch. And yeah, so he wins, 29-28. Actually, yeah, across the board, 29-28. And he was your middleweight winner in the Ultimate Fighter Nations, Canada versus Australia. So, good job, Elias Theodoro, going up against Bruno Santos. Then, also on the main card, we had, in the lightweight division, Chad Laprise versus Denis Cedenios. And yeah, this one was truly dominant every step of the way. 30-27 unanimous decision win for Chad Laprise. Yeah, Chad Laprise, he won the Ultimate Fighter Nations in the welterweight division, Canada versus Australia. And he was on Team Canada along with Elias Theodoro. And yeah, this guy, he trains at TriStar. He has tools everywhere. He's dedicated, and he still has some years left in him. And yeah, he just dominated. He landed good, clean shots. All 3 rounds across the board against Cedenios. And yeah, Chad Laprise, I think this guy could easily crack the top 10 of the lightweight division. I could see this guy winning his next 3 fights, especially if he's healthy, full training camp, focused. He'll go places. We'll see, because he's good on the ground. He's good on stand-up. He knows how to mix it all up. So good job, Chad Laprise. And yeah, it was pretty much a stand-up war, and maybe a little bit of ground game here and there on this fight. But yeah, he looked great on the stand-up in this fight. Then, so he wins by unanimous decision. Then we get to the co-main event, which is a bantamweight bout with Bryan Caraway versus Rafael Sunsao. Now, I kind of figured Rafael Sunsao would win this fight. Rafael Sunsao, he's definitely underrated, underlooked. It's just, you got Dominic Cruz back, coming off that big win over Takeya Mizugaki. And then you got TJ Dillashaw as our still fairly new champ. And, you got Uriah Faber in the mix, and you got all these great bantamweights. And especially ones that can sell tickets and pay-per-views like Dominic Cruz and Uriah Faber. So Rafael Sunsao, he gets kind of overlooked, but he's on a 7-fight win streak, I believe it is, and he just dominated Bryan Caraway, especially in the later rounds. He won, 30-27 across the board, unanimous decision. He got some good takedowns on Bryan Caraway, and he was able to just work that stand-up, and he saw the footwork that Bryan Caraway was using, and he was able to capitalize off that and land his own strikes. So it was good job looking for telegraph strikes by Bryan Caraway. Not that Bryan Caraway necessarily deliberately done that, but it is what it is. And yeah, Rafael Sunsao, he was able to capitalize off anything Bryan Caraway threw at him. And Bryan Caraway's a talent. I think that guy will definitely get smack dab in that top 10 of the bantamweights before you know it. He'll come back with a couple more wins now, I think. I think this loss will motivate him. And I'm a big Bryan Caraway fan, so good luck to him. Yeah, especially training with Miesha Tate. He'll work on his wrestling, he'll work on his striking, and he'll know how to transition more from his wrestling to his striking and vice versa. He's wrestling-based fighter. Yeah, and Rafael Sunsao, he knows how to deal with wrestlers, and he has great striking, and that's what the issue was in this fight. And Rafael Sunsao, I think, is about unfortunately one match away from a title shot at this point. He should get the title shot if things weren't the way they were in bantamweight, but given the circumstances, he'll probably have one more fight and then, or wait it out for a really long period of time, then fight for the title. But yeah, Rafael Assunção, I don't see him being champion, but I do see him fighting for the belt. Yeah, I do think TJ Dillashaw did beat him in that match, and TJ got robbed in that decision. Feel free to look that one up, you guys. Yeah, so that sums up the co-main event. Rafael Assunção wins by unanimous decision over Brian Caraway. Then we get to the main event, which is my good buddy Rory MacDonald versus Tarec Saffiedine. Welterweight clash of the ages. Two top 10 ranked welterweights in the UFC. Tarec Saffiedine, the very last Strikeforce welterweight champion in history, beating Nate Marquardt in devastating fashion with those insane leg kicks, which he tried to use against Rory MacDonald, but Rory was smart and he avoided some of those leg kicks. And Rory MacDonald, he was able to use his footwork, use his killer boxing, and wear out Tarec Saffiedine, and he knocked him out. It was third round. It was, yeah, third round, 1 minute and 20 some odd seconds into the third round. Great job, Rory MacDonald, and man, go get that title. Yeah, Rory MacDonald, good buddy Al, I'm so proud of you. He's fighting for the belt. He's getting the winner of Johnny Hendricks and Robbie Lawler now. It's going to be a great fight. So we'll see how all that pans out, and hopefully Rory gets that belt. I like our current champ, Johnny Hendricks. He seems like a good guy, but I also want to see Rory have the belt. And I wouldn't mind seeing Robbie have the belt either. You know, so just kind of pass that belt around. There's so many favorite fighters of mine in the welterweight division right now. It's a pretty exciting weight class for me right now. And yeah, that wraps up the post-fight show for UFC Fight Night. MacDonald versus Saffiedine. And give me 1 second and we'll get started with the pre-fight show for 179. Okay, so the pre-fight show for UFC 179, which is Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes Part 2. This is an epic rematch. I was supposed to be at this fight in Los Angeles at the Staples Center, and Jose Aldo got injured. I was really upset over it, and now this match gets moved to Brazil and postponed, you know, over 2 months later due to Jose Aldo's injuries and training. And I'm rooting for Chad Mendes because of all this. I really hope Chad Mendes wins. I don't think he's going to win, but I hope he wins. Yeah, this is for the UFC Featherweight Championship of the World, the main event of this pay-per-view coming up. Yeah, it's going to be an explosive, exciting fight. I think that Jose Aldo could win by knockout again in this fight. I think it'll be second or third round finish, TKO finish for Jose Aldo. He'll defend the belt again this time against Chad Mendes. Yeah, he'll beat him a second time. He beat him the first time in the first round with like a second or two left. And I think this time he'll go a little bit further. Yeah, Chad Mendes will be aware of the heavy hands of Jose Aldo, but Jose will eventually catch up and be able to use his speed and his footwork and his heavy hands and knock out Chad Mendes in Brazil and get that victory. And hopefully Cub Swanson gets the next shot. Hopefully Cub beats Frankie Edgar, and hopefully they give it to Cub at some point and Cub beats Jose Aldo. But in a perfect world, Chad Mendes beats Jose Aldo, Cub gets a title shot, and then beats Chad Mendes for the belt, and then that's that. But yeah, we'll see how this all pans out. Yeah, so The co-main event of this major pay-per-view is Fabio Maldonado versus, or not Fabio Maldonado, Phil Davis versus Glover Teixeira. And my pick to win this is Glover Teixeira. I think he can deal with the wrestling of Phil Davis. I think he's a better boxer than Phil Davis. He has heavier hands than Phil Davis. He can take a beating a lot more than Phil Davis. I think Phil Davis is talented. I think Phil Davis will win more fights after this, but that night will not be Phil Davis' night. It will be Glover Teixeira's, and Glover Teixeira will move up the rankings and get closer to another title shot after this match. And so, yeah, this is in the light heavyweight division. It's a co-main event. It's going to be an explosive, exciting fight. I'm so happy to see this fight. Then also on the main card, and also the light heavyweight division, we have Fabio Maldonado versus Hans Stringer. Now this fight, okay, Hans Stringer, I'm a fan of him, but I think Fabio Maldonado, he's actually gotten a little bit better over time. Yeah, he got knocked out by Stipe Miocic, but that wasn't his weight class. Fabio truly is a light heavyweight. Fabio just went to heavyweight for that one match against Stipe, and it was what it is. I think Fabio Maldonado will get back on track, and he will win by first or second round knockout, or just win in general in this match. Fabio, you know, he's a great boxer, good takedown defense. He can deal with the ground, but ground's not necessarily his biggest specialty. So I got Fabio Maldonado winning this one, but wouldn't mind to see Hans Stringer win this one. Yeah, then also on the main card we have Darren Elkins versus Lucas Martins. Now, here's the thing about Darren Elkins. I've been ranting and raving about how this guy's the next big thing in featherweight. Yeah, this is a featherweight match. But Darren Elkins' striking hasn't really gone drastically better over time, and his chin has been in question. I think that Lucas Martins, him being such a talent, and the UFC is lucky to have him, that Lucas Martins will win by knockout first or second round against Darren Elkins. If not, Lucas Martins could possibly win a unanimous decision over Darren Elkins. This fight's a coin toss, though. I would say it's 60% Lucas Martins wins, 40% Darren Elkins wins. Darren Elkins, his best chance is using his wrestling, of course, and just laying on top of him. Just laying on top of him, scoring points, getting that dominant position. Go for a little bit of ground and pound whenever he can, and just, you know, drag it out to the judges' scorecards and get that decision win. It may not be glamorous, it may not be exciting, but it's the safest, best way for Darren Elkins to win this fight. So yeah, this is a good fight at featherweight. I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah, I'll root for Darren Elkins on this one, but I think Lucas Martins will win. Then to kick off the main card of this major, awesome pay-per-view, we have Carlos Fajeda versus Beneil Dariush. And man, now this one, oof. You know what? I guess because it's in Brazil and Carlos is a Brazilian, I will go with Carlos on this fight. 51% chance. Beneil, 49%. It's a coin. This one really is a coin toss. Beneil has a great record. He's looked good in the UFC. He lost to Ramsey Nijum, but he put an effort in that fight, and since then has rebounded from losing to Ramsey. So yeah, you know, this one, it's like, don't count out Beneil. And Carlos, yeah, he's a talent. He's a talent at lightweight. Yeah, this is There's going to be a good lightweight clash, and I don't look forward to every single lightweight match, but this one I'm definitely looking forward to. So yeah, that sums up the main card. And yeah, we got Neil Magny on the prelims against William Macaro, and that's going to be a good fight at welterweight. So yeah, William Macaro. Yeah, this whole pay-per-view event, prelims and main card, it actually looks pretty good, and it's a good. Yeah, you got Scott Jorgensen versus Wilson Reese, and that's going to be a good fight. Scott Jorgensen definitely needs some wins to really keep his UFC record alive, and that sums up the pre-fight show. And enjoy the fights this Saturday. Until then, see ya.